there is an, if you like, say, a real intelligence behind it, its position and what it's doing. Because I mean, without it, I mean, we wouldn't have any tides, and it keeps us in a stable orbit. 23 degrees, I think, the incline from the vertical, which gives us our seasons as we go around the sun. Anyway, this war in the heavens. If you were to take a computer model of the Earth and drain all the water out and look at the Pacific Ocean side on, the Earth looks like an apple with a great bite taken out of it. So there could be something in there. The kind of thing that was going on, if you Google a gentleman by the name of Colonel Tom Dearden, he's done a lot of work on scalar EM, electromagnetism, and the kind of things which the Americans get up to with their was it high altitude Auroral Research project, HARP, and there is some suggestion that they're using HARP as a weapon, and that they used it on China, and they've used it on that was the cause of the earthquake in Haiti. And in fact, this type of technology has been around a long time, because in the 1960s they were doing this type of thing, which is bouncing billions of watts of electricity off the ionosphere, and then it reflects back down. So the ionosphere starts to vibrate, and then it sets up a sympathetic harmonic vibration with the Earth. And if it's strong enough, then that loosens all the bonds of the stresses in the Earth and triggers an earthquake. But apparently in 1960s they were doing this, also flying at high altitude and dropping iron filings in the ionosphere, and Chile lost half its coastline. And had the worst earthquake they'd ever had up until recently. But anyway, that's details. I talked about the fact that there was life on Mars, and if you look very carefully on the web, you'll find there's a lot of indications of evidence of life on Mars, and there are kind of sort of like surface tunnels which appear to have a series of hoops. It's as though they're transparent tunnels with a series of hoops on them, and they could even be in use now. Another thing which I observed on one site is that the temperature on Mars was not the sort of the extremes that NASA tell us about. I mean, the temperature on this particular occasion, in this particular location, was 20 degrees centigrade, which is quite comfortable. Anyway, if we come now to the time that Adam and Eve were created in the Garden of Eden, because if you'd imagine that the planet had been broken, so much upheaval that it destroyed all life on the planet. I mean, it was probably sort of complete sort of flame out, I should think. And it was, the Bible talks about, in the beginning, the earth was without form and void, and the Spirit of the Lord moved upon the face of the waters. In other words, it was a water planet, there was no land, and creation then took place over 6 of God's days, but it could have been millions of years of ours. So anyway, finally Adam and Eve were placed in the Garden of Eden, and Adam first, and then Eve came later when God found he was a bit lonely. So I think we know about Adam's rib, and they were in a position where they didn't know. The Bible says that they didn't know evil. So in other words, that they didn't have any sort of choices in life to make in terms of what was right and what was wrong. They would just automatically do the right thing. And then of course Lucifer took on the appearance of a serpent, and went and tempted Eve to eat the one fruit. And the only rule that God had given them: don't eat that fruit. But apart from that, you're free. And of course, he'd said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth," which of course is very interesting, because that word replenish indicates that it had previously been plenished and it needed replenishing. So that's a very good pointer from the scriptures here. So the fall, they were cast out of the Garden of Eden, and the lineage of man began, and of course evil had got in at that point, because when you look at their firstborn son Cain murdered his brother Abel, so there was evil in the system then. But God in his love had made a plan to redeem mankind, and of course it talks about God said to them that Satan would bruise Adam's heel, and Adam would bruise his head, and indicating that there would be Satan would be dealt with in the fullness of time. So anyway, the plan of redemption was based on the atonement, which is the shedding of blood for the remission of sin, and that was demonstrated to children of Israel. God chose Abraham and decided that he was going to have a people especially for himself, which were the descendants of Abraham. And the plan was that he required them to set up the sacrificial system where they would sacrifice an animal for the sins of the people. And so this went on for years and years and years, and in fact they were still doing that sacrificial system at the time of Jesus. Of course, what the arrangement became, but in fact I think I'm going to break there and show you a short video, because I want you to understand what I'm going to say.